Guys, welcome back to the scale. Today we have on the scale Godzilla -1. You guys were asking me to see the movie. Wasn't interested in seeing it, went out to see it. In this film, we're dealing with the character of Shikishima as he deals with the devastating damages after World War II on Little Japan. As the character struggles to identify how he's going to pick up his life and move forward, he's confronted with the gargantuan beast, Godzilla. Now, the movie itself, in connection with the plot, Godzilla, very, very, very nice, smooth, effortless attempt at this 1954 classic going into the 70th anniversary. Thomas, what do you think about the plot?
I think it really did a great job of honoring the original film that came out in 1954. They did a fantastic job with the story, with the actual character of Godzilla, and just overall a wonderful job with the actual characters in the movie as well.
Yeah, one of the things that you're thinking about when it comes to making a film such as Godzilla is are they going to be true to its plot? Are they going to be true to this character? Very well developed, very nice in connection with that execution, and it was just good throughout the entire story. Shikishima is a character that you can really connect with and adapt with, and that made the plot just flow effortlessly. Now we're going into the entertainment. What we find to be so entertaining about this film, it's a Godzilla movie. Like, how can you not be entertained?
Right. If you're someone who really enjoys action movies and just absolute scenes of destruction, you're really going to like this movie.
So, the theme of this movie, Godzilla, identity, depth, Godzilla here, this character, no rhyme or reason. We don't know where Godzilla came from. We don't know where Godzilla is going. We don't even know where Godzilla has been. But the way they put this into this film really drove it very nicely. The theme, as it were, when you're talking about a character like this, there's so many different ways that Godzilla could have been portrayed. And so for them to theme it that way, to have that you kind of get a horror vibe from it. You get this horror feel from the film. Like, it's a thriller. And I'm thinking to myself, how bad is this going to get? You know what I mean? When you're in that suspense, on the edge of your seat kind of status?
Yeah. They did a really good job with making you think the film was going to go in one direction when it actually went another way. And they combined, as you said, the horror aspect and the thriller aspect of it. They did a wonderful job with that.
And then they kept it right there in your seat. Like, we went to see Godzilla, and that's what we saw. We got to see Godzilla, and that's what really causes you to identify with the depth of the character. And not only Godzilla, but Shikishima as well as his love interest in the film. Thinking about performance-wise, the actors and cast here, got to give a look out to some or a shout out to some of these characters here. These names are of interest because obviously they're all in Japanese. But we do have, let's call him Mr. Kamiki. And the thing about his character that I enjoyed the most was the performance. When you're dealing with a character in a thriller film and you're trying to execute emotion, and then just to give you guys an FYI, the entire movie is in Japanese. So if you think you're going to go in and read subtitles for the first 10 minutes and then they're shifting to English, they're not. That was a nice acting point because there was no voice dub. It was just authentic. It was just raw Japanese at every turn. What do you think?
Yeah, I was really astounded. I knew it was a Japanese film, but on my first viewing, I wasn't expecting to be able to connect so well with the main characters. And I'm so glad it was subtitled because if it was dubbed, I probably would not have felt that connection to the characters.
You really think so?
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you come into a film, you're not trying to see a dubbed movie because it's like you're listening to two languages at the same time. It becomes very tiring. It becomes very draining. But that wasn't this film. Even though it was in Japanese, they still found a way to make the movie pace well. It was good. It was a good, strong pace, and that's what the characters and performance brought. And you can really see the work behind the scenes. Just the character presence. You really get good stage presence from Shikishima because as an actor who's trying to represent Japanese culture in a film like this, you get great stage presence, and you're not going to be unentertained throughout the film. And that's why the dialogue was good. Even the conversation that they had, I personally didn't know of the culture being emotional or having this kind of I always knew about how they felt about their family, and that was well represented in the film. But I wasn't always aware of just the emotion that's involved. But when you're thinking about how they depicted it after World War II, they covered those emotions well. You expect to see a film like that. You're not going in there thinking, oh, it's World War II, everything is okay. They're literally living under extreme hardship. This is difficult times that they're living under. But
yeah, just to piggyback off of that, when they first show the city of Tokyo in the movie, this was right after the air raids. So the entire city had been devastated, and they did a really good job of showing what the whole country was like after World War II, which was really quite saddening when you think about it. It was a really rough time for the country of Japan.
so now we're moving into storytelling. We're going into that. What makes this movie stand out? What makes this movie a good one to see? The storytelling was ridiculous. It was phenomenal because if you're dealing with a horror film or a thriller film, it's very difficult to have action play its role in the film and then have love thrive in the film and character development. Godzilla was one of my favorite because the execution of that was phenomenal. It made sense. The storytelling, the context of the film all had a place. It wasn't random. It wasn't sporadic. That is what you're going to see when you go into this film. Did you notice that even during some of the battle sequences, for example,
Right.
there still was an emotional undertone to it.
There was, and they really made it seem like there were actual stakes during the whole time as well. And they did a good job, as you said, with the emotion. They were able to keep that level throughout all these action scenes. And that's not really an easy thing to do in action movies.
No, it's really not. Now you find yourself talking about going into the visual language, how their setting and wardrobe was. It was phenomenal, especially a movie on water. There's one other movie that I've really enjoyed when water is being depicted. That's Wakanda Forever. But this film, being on water, dealing with the water, Godzilla doing what he does, and just the way they created him. The way he's depicted in this film, it kind of gives you this Jaws kind of vibe, lurking around this mass body of water. See these horns on his back, and then he's powering up, and you're just like, how are they going to realistically defeat a monster that looks like this? Just his appearance, that is really what stole the entire production of Godzilla. The way he was designed, the visual language in connection with Godzilla.
Yeah. Oh.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so me being someone who's a really big fan of Godzilla, I noticed in this iteration of him, they combined different versions of previous Godzillas to come up with the look. So what I noticed was, after having done research about the movie, they combined, for those who know, the Heisei era, the Showa era, and the Millennium era versions of Godzilla. And they did a really nice job of also making this version of Godzilla unique. So they had similarities with these other versions, but they made this version unique. And the stylization of his appearance is also faithful to the older movies as well, which is a really nice touch. And they did a wonderful job with the animation, and it was overall just a wonderful, wonderful look to Godzilla.
I think it's practical because that transitions right into how the movie was edited, how it was paced, and the effects just went on through, because that is something that can easily slip in a film when there's this monstrous creature here, this creature of large proportion. You're so focused on the creature that every other element falls into place or falls out of place. But right from the start of the movie, you jump right into the action. Like, there is no moment in this film where you're just like, this is dragging, this is slow, this is boring. Every moment, every scene had a place. It was just like slicing, freshly baked bread. It was crazy, man. It was crazy. And then the Godzilla theme song. What did you think? How did you feel about that?
It was absolutely phenomenal. They did a wonderful job with that. I don't remember who it was that came up with the score. I knew there was a friend of mine who actually was such a fan of the score that he started listening to it himself. It was such a wonderful score. I don't remember who it was, but they did.
So right here it says Naoki
Sato.
Sato. He's the composer. And think about the key thing about that theme song was that it had an old vibe to it. Like it had the old kind of vibe to it, and then it had its normal vibe in this modern movie. That was good stuff, man. Obviously, directing, the vision, execution, they did a flawless job with that. It's one thing to have a bunch of characters on screen running, scrambling around, being dramatic. There's a monster coming, but there's organized sequence here. There's organized sequence. The director had a story. He wanted to tell that story. The story was to represent Godzilla in its form. And all of the years, all of the history of knowing Godzilla, this is a staple in cinema. So he obviously had a direction that he was going in, did a phenomenal job with it. Now here's my favorite, guys. We're finally wrapping this whole thing up. What made this movie stand out as better than all the rest?
So as someone who's a really big fan of monster movies, this really stood out to me because most monster movies, they're made just so you can have the major action scenes with one monster fighting the other. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but the problem that arises is that the main characters, or just the characters in general of those movies, they're really lackluster. And that was not at all a problem in this movie. So this was overall a really impressive film to me. I haven't seen many monster films quite like it. I've always been really a big Godzilla fan, so this was something to me, man. This is something I've already seen it 3 times. I might see it another time because it was just so good. It was true to the source material and yet did something new at the same time without, I don't want to spoil the movie, but it was just wonderful. It's just wonderful.
The it factor, the thing that set this movie over the top for me was that you have a nice cast here. I know we mentioned Shikishima as the main character there, and it really deals with him and his PTSD and the challenges he's going through after the war. And it's just a story that can be told generation after generation, and it can help so many. But his friend, they had a nice, healthy cast. The cast worked well together, and it's nice for me personally when I can see a cast that works well together. Not only do they have their culture, but you can tell that there is a close-knitness, a family vibe, a family environment that these members could thrive and grow in. Like, there's nothing more amazing than seeing that on screen. You have that authentic, real concern for one another. You have a nice underdog story developing there. You have different character development for each character based on this one event of Godzilla. Phenomenal film. Do encourage you guys to watch it. And let me know what you think about it in the comment feed. Love you guys as always. Appreciate you tuning into the Cinema Scale. And we'll continue to update you with all things movies. Next up on the scale tomorrow, I'm going to go see Migration. Let me know what you think in the comments about Godzilla. Other than that, guys, next time, peace out.
Have a good one.